Hey guys, so I'm a fan of math and a fan of games, but most math games out there aren't known for being very fun. Nim, more like dim-witted. Tic-tac-toe, more like tic-tac-go, away cause it's so bland. Sudoku, more like Sue broke you down cause you got so bored.
It's time to stop.
See, the issue here is that there's no thrill, no creeping danger that keeps you or the audience on the edge of your seat. If you write the wrong number in Sudoku, you're just like, oh, that's annoying, whatever. So now I introduce to you a brand new math game that puts your life on the line. Disclaimer, don't actually play this game unless you know your limits, because I don't want anyone dying because of my video. Awkward. Seriously, this is all a joke. Anyway, here's the rules, again as a joke. There's a timer on the floor counting up once per second, like 1, 2, 3, and so on. Multiple mathematicians dunk their heads into transparent tubs of water so they can see the timer ticking up. You can only lift your head up to breathe if the number on the clock is a prime number. Let's see this in action. So 2 and 3 are prime numbers, so our contestants are allowed to breathe. 4 is not though, but 5 is. This pattern continues, meaning contestants can breathe at the 7, 11, and 13 second marks, and so on. A strong lung capacity and quick maths are both essential skills to doing well at this game. If the police catch you with your head out of water during a composite number like 004, or if you pass out, this buzzer will go off, meaning you're eliminated from the game. The last mathematician standing wins a grand prize of $2 because it's the first prime number. I'm calling this game Breathe If Prime, and it's a lot of fun, but again, don't play this game unless you know your lung capacity well. But with that out of the way, let's explore why this game is so interesting. Since 1798, we've known that the density of primes goes down the higher you count, thanks to work by this legendary joker. For example, between 0 and 100, there's 25 primes, but between 100 and 200, there's only 21. And by 200 to 300, there's only 16. And this pattern continues forever. This makes intuitive sense because the higher you go, the more factors there are underneath yourself to be divided by, so it's harder and harder to dodge all the factors and stay prime. This phenomenon is described with the prime counting function, denoted as pi of x. And in the 1790s, Carl Gauss and the aforementioned legendary joker gave a guess that pi of x was around x over log x. For something as unpredictable as primes, like literally they're so unpredictable we use them to encrypt basically all communication on the internet, it's kind of crazy how accurate this simple estimate is. It overpredicts the actual number of primes by no more than 14%, and at large values of x, we're talking quintillions and up, it stabilizes at less than 1.6% error. That's 1 part per 60. So pi of x is interesting, but how does that relate to my game? Well, it means at the early stages of this game, like the first 60 seconds, you get quite a few opportunities to breathe. In fact, because of 2 and 3, you get 2 seconds in a row to breathe at the very start.
Spoiled brat!
Which never happens again because 2 is the only even prime. In addition, there are frequent moments when you get to breathe, like at 11 seconds, then you have to do the most minimal of head bobs at 12 seconds, and then you get to come up for breath again at 13 seconds. These 3-second periods of nearly uninterrupted breathing, known as TISPO nubs by BIP athletes and twin primes by mathematicians, can really help you out if your lungs are screaming, but they become less frequent as the game wears on. There are 6 sets of twin primes in the first minute, but only 3 by the second minute, and only 2 by the third minute. The 7th minute of the game, which is like the 7th inning stretch invented by President William Howard Taft, is brutal. It's the first time there are no TISPO nubs in an entire minute. Here's a question. Do TISPO nubs continue to exist infinitely throughout this game? Let's think. Do they? Do they? Hint, hint, hint. So as you can see, Breathe If Prime already satisfies the game design principle that difficulty should match players' ability. Sure, bigger lunged players do better, but eventually, the difficulty curve will catch up with them. And this difficulty curve happens for another reason too. See, you have to calculate in your head whether a number is prime or not. No relying on ChatGPTs or old-fashioned ChatGPTs, known as calculators, for assistance. It's all on you. So I would say for most 2-digit numbers, you can just look at it and get a vibe for its primeness. But it tickles me pink that people online all somehow seem to agree that certain non-prime numbers just feel so obviously prime-coded.
The fact that 51 is not a prime number because it's 17 times 3, I'm gonna be sick.
Like for me, the worst one is 91. 91 isn't prime? What the fuck? Oh right, difference of squares. Anyway, casual math fans will notice this game start to get harder around the 3rd minute. Quick, is 127 prime? In the first minute, you could just take each prime as it comes, but in the mid-game, you need to start thinking ahead. All numbers ending in even digits or 5s are composite, so don't waste any brain power on them. That means as soon as the clock hits 123, which isn't prime, your brain should immediately start thinking if 127 is prime. Spoiler, it is. That gives you anywhere from 2 to 4 seconds to do your math, and if you use even more advanced tricks, you can get even 6 or 8 seconds to do your math. This is called think ahead, and professional BIP players will spend years training their think ahead. Here's another fun question. What's the longest a typical person could survive? Assuming they can hold their breath for about a minute. I feel like that's about average. Well, let's just let a game play out and watch these 3 players, and if they reach a segment of time where there's 60 seconds of no primes, then they'll die. In the lower right, you'll see that I'm recording statistics on prime concentration, the average gap between primes, and the record gap seen so far. In the early 100s, we get an oasis of twin primes, sorely needed because it's preceded by the dry 80s and 90s, and followed by the dry 110s and 120s. In fact, the gap between 113 and 127 is the first time our contestants will have to hold their breath for a double-digit number of seconds, pushing the record gap from 8 to 14. Surprisingly though, that record will hold for the next 5 minutes of gameplay, so if you can make it past this, you're set for a while. Next, let's jump ahead to the aforementioned 7th minute, the first one to have no twin primes. It sounds grueling, but it's actually not that bad. Average gap size has only increased from 5 to 6, and there's no double-digit breath holds in this minute, even though competitors have already gotten used to them, there having been 6 so far. The coveted 10-minute mark is ushered in through the gates of a twin prime, 599 and 601. The record gap size has expanded to 18 seconds. At this point though, audience members are starting to get bored. Fortunately for them though, the exciting and historic first 20-second hold literally surrounds the 15-minute mark, going from 887 to 907. We're just starting to get to lengths of breath holds where amateurs can't make it from the start to the finish. And somewhere along the way, we see a 22-seconder, and our competitors smash through that because it's only a 10% increase. But things are about to get much harder though, because the next record after 22 seconds isn't 24, it's not 26, and it's not even 28. No, rather, this excruciating game is forcing our competitors to hold their breath for 34 seconds. Professional BIP players have agreed on this rule that if you dip out at this 34-second hold, you're intermediate, but if you make it through, you're an expert. This is known as BIP's Rule 34, and remember, it's only 22 minutes in. Fast forwarding now, the average gap size fluctuates between 7 and 10. At the pivotal half-hour mark, contestants have now dunked their heads a total of 278 times, for an average of 1 breath every 6.5 seconds. You might be slightly concerned because that's below the healthy adult average of once every 4 seconds, but honestly, you should be more concerned with the irregularity of breaths than the raw frequency. We've hit the 1 hour mark, nearly the length of a short movie, and we still haven't seen any gaps longer than 34. Alright, here's a thought you might have. You might be thinking, okay, I could survive a 30-second hold, but my lungs don't do a full reset just because I breathed once. If I have to do a 20-second hold over and over and over again, I'll feel more and more out of air with each repetition, and eventually I'll have to quit. That is true, and it's a concept I explored for a bit, with the idea of lungs being more like a fuel tank that gradually refills. I wrote a part of the script that covers that, but it doubled the video length, so I cut it out. Anyway, yes, we are shockingly at the 3-hour mark, and the largest gap we've seen has barely budged, still just at 36. And that's still true even at the 4-hour mark? What? Perhaps it's just some rule of math that primes have to occur at some base level of frequency such that no gaps longer than 36 can exist? Maybe that's true, but 36 feels really random and it would be hard to prove. Instead, we could just keep running the simulation until we hope to find a larger gap if one does exist, but it's getting kind of tiring just waiting so long. Luckily, PrimeGapListProject.github tracks the record largest prime gaps as you count up. The first time there's a gap larger than 60 is from 31,397 to 31,469. Nice. A full 72 seconds that the average player just won't be able to endure. This is known in the BIP community as the minute lung killer. Okay, I just want to point out that a mere 4 seconds before your send-off, the game gifts you with a rare twin prime to fill up on extra oxygen. It might not be enough to keep you alive, but it's a nice gesture nonetheless. How long is 31,000 seconds? 8.5 hours. Yes, you're playing this game all night, and yes, you will enjoy it. That's 3,385 head dunks, by the way, roughly 1 every 9 seconds. But that's just us amateurs. Let's take it to the next level. How long could the most highly trained, max lung capacity expert survive at this game? Pause. I guess I'll have to reveal the answer to that in part 2 of this video, or you can try to figure it out yourself. Anyway, I'm in New York right now, but I have a quick announcement before I go. Do you know OpenSauce, which is like a convention for nerdy content creators, happening July 18th to 20th in San Francisco? Well, I have the huge honor of getting to be one of the featured creators of OpenSauce this year. You can see if you scroll down, I'm right here next to Aaron Hansen and CodeBullet. So if you want to meet me and talk about STEM-related things like computer science, or math, or biology, then buy a ticket to OpenSauce right now and we can meet up and discuss really fun things like that. Thank you for watching and I'll see you later. Bye!